This is no time to go wobbly on Russia and the Ukraine war. Putin's strategy is to wait out the West. Calls for negotiations serve that objective. President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Congress last month came at a crucial time, not only because Ukraine continues to grind through Western materiel, using it to dislodge and destroy entrenched Russian troops, but also because chatter is picking up in Washington about a settlement to end the war. The initial calls for negotiations came in October from the Congressional Progressive Caucus, which collapsed in infighting and recrimination. But in recent weeks there have been renewed calls from more prominent voices. A few days before Mr. Zelensky arrived in Washington, Henry Kissinger wrote an article urging the West to press Ukraine for peace through negotiation. Such a peace would see Russia relinquish all the territory it gained this year, with the rest of the Russian-occupied territory in Ukraine being the subject of a negotiation after a ceasefire. All the while, the West would work toward formulating a new international structure, in which Russia would eventually find a place. Shortly thereafter, leading Cold War scholar Vladislav Zubak made a similar pitch. To Mr. Zubak, the time has come for the West to begin offering carrots to entice Moscow to the negotiating table. These would include a timetable for returning Russia's frozen financial assets as well as preparation for Russia's return to Europe. As Mr. Zubak sees it, the sticks of military support have exhausted their utility. These arguments appear to be having an effect. Congressional Republicans are reportedly wavering on continuing to provide financial and military aid to Kyiv. There's little reason to think these calls for negotiations won't grow more pronounced. But these arguments are based on faulty assumptions. Not only do they threaten to undercut Ukraine's battlefield momentum, they would consign Ukrainian populations in territories still held by Russia, whose troops already are guilty of crimes against humanity, to effective oblivion. More broadly, they misunderstand Vladimir Putin's Kremlin, which is saturated in revanchism and dreams of imperial glory. Mr. Putin's irredentist obsessions are hardly a secret. He writes essays and delivers speeches that tout Ukraine's historical unity with Russia, claim that Russians and Ukrainians are one people, and assert that it is his and Moscow's destiny to return Ukraine to the Russian fold. Mr. Kissinger wants to integrate Russia into a new structure, expecting Mr. Putin to give up on his recent annexations of such places as Kherson and Donetsk. For another leader in the Kremlin, this may be a satisfactory outcome. But with Mr. Putin in power, it is unrealistic. The same goes for Mr. Zubak's proposals, which do nothing to address Mr. Putin's recent occupations or his decades-long willingness to shred agreements in the pursuit of colonial conquest. If anything, Mr. Zubak's strategy risks signaling Western weakness to the Kremlin. As analyst Dmitry Alperovich has observed, if the West makes the first peace offer, Putin will see it as a sign of weakness and a validation of his strategy, proof that he is winning and that his enemies don't have the patience to prosecute a prolonged conflict with him. The logic of these proposals mirrors failed strategies we've seen before, such as the Obama administration's search for off-ramps for Mr. Putin in Ukraine in 2014. Calls for negotiation signal to Mr. Putin that his lone remaining strategy, waiting out the West and hoping for broader fracturing among Ukraine's Western backers, may be working.